Us, hello. I'll turn it up. I'll increase it. Us, Frederick, how are you? Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Let me see if I can face it there a little bit. A lot of light in the background there today. Hope everyone's well. Us, hi, Rochelle. Welcome all the way from Canada. So we've got you guys right across the different sides of the globe. So tonight I'm going to, might even be a little shorter than normal, but I want to look at Tensho Kata. Us, Brad. But the good news is I sent out an email today to the book buyers. If you got it, good, let me know. But the books are on their way, and of course, the book's going to different areas of the world. Us, Mike, good to see you. The book's going to the different distributors around the world, of course, will arrive at different times. But Australia is closest to Hong Kong. So the ship arrives on Sunday. How good is that? And I should have access to the books, I guess, after all the customs clearance and all that sort of delivery and everything is sorted. So I'm looking to have them on maybe Thursday next week. Well, Shane, good to see you, man. You have to come and do some rolling with us. I heard you've got a tournament coming up, Shane. That's good. Come and have some roll. Come and do a roll with us. Although we're not really into tournament BJJ, but anyway, you're always welcome. You know that. Us, Paul, Gaza. Got your videos, Gaz. I think one is still missing, but anyway, Marco, Us, Brad. Oh yeah. So I told a few stories about TI, about my old days with the ships. But anyway, look, the good news is the ships arrive, and they've got these great apps now. You go online, you key in the name of the ship, and you can see the progress and all that. So it's pretty exciting. But anyway, they arrive. The ship arrives Sunday. The books will be off the wharf soon after that, hopefully. So pretty exciting times. By the live stream next week, hopefully I'll have a pile of them right next to me here that I can finally show you. What's Bill? Good to see you. Rochelle and Bill from the same little Dawson Creek area of Western Canada. Very cool. Yeah, Shane Manor there. He's one of our top Kyokushin fighters in his day. He's old and grey and his eyes are dim now, but he's still competing in BJJ. Good on him. He started doing BJJ. He's got a really good coach there in Daniel Almeida, and he's getting ready for his first BJJ tournament. How cool is that? Us, Paddy, good to see you. But anyway, today I'm looking at Tensho. Okay, so as you know, Tensho Kata, the word Tensho means turning palms. Let me write it for you on my trusty little... My daughter's sending me messages, but I won't be able to answer. I'm just going to write it roughly. Don't want to infatuate too much. There you go. So, Tensho. Turning palms. Boom, 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 like that. Okay? Figure eights and all that stuff. It's very important. And I even brought, check this out, a little bit of a blast from the past. Look at this old book. This is karate in its cardboard box. This was gifted to me by my instructor, Frank Everett. And I just checked it out today to see what Salsai wrote about Tensho. So there's some interesting things here. The meaning of the Tensho lies, and remember, the guy who translated these books had no paradigm to draw from. He was actually breaking new ground. So a lot of the time, some of his translations seem a little bit out of date now, but we have to keep in mind that he was the one. He had no nothing to reference against. It's easy for us now. We have things. The meaning of Tensho lies in being able to roll the palm of your hand around like a ball so that if the opponent thrusts or strikes at you, your hand at once comes in contact with his. You can move it around and around without breaking that contact. The blocks used are largely Tensho blocks, single fist blocks, palm heel blocks, rather than arm or seizing blocks. So that's interesting. He says, move your arms around without losing contact. That's the principle of what they call muchimi in Okinawa, as Mike Clark reminded us last week. Us, Paul, good to see you from Germany. And Mac, us, good to see you. Muchimi is the Okinawan version of sticking hands. But he also says something interesting here, which is really important. We must also remember that Tensho is connected with the reverse hand techniques. Now, I've said before, reversed hand is a translation of gyakute. So we think that because it has a Japanese name, it's something special, but it's not. All it refers to is grappling. Grabbing, holding, grappling, breaking grips, re-gripping, stripping grips, wrist locks, all that. All that is grappling, or what is often called, Michelle, good to see you. What is often called gyakute in Japanese. It just means grappling. Okay, one of the simplest things to remember about gyakute or handhold reversals or reverse hand reversals is that it's just grappling. Someone grabs your wrist, you break the grip. You grab their wrist, they break your grip. And we've been through some of those really, really good drills that you should work, because there's only two ways that someone can start a fight. They either hit you or they grab you. You know, they kick or hit. So it's an impact thing in range 5 or range 1 or 2. Or it's a grab, okay, in range 4 or 5, or 4 into 5, okay? And the other thing to remember too is, even though Kyokushin doesn't grab in tournaments, we don't punch in tournaments in the head, we don't grab in tournaments, those techniques still exist in the Kyokushin syllabus, and they exist in what we do. And in a way, you could compare it to the atemi strikes in judo. And as you may know, if you do judo, they have atemi kata, and they have kata in judo where they actually strike. They do strikes to the vital points and so on, you know, and they exist and they're there, but they just don't do them in their rule set for competition. Well, we're the same in Kyokushin. Our Kyokushin rules are very specific. We can kick anywhere except the groin. We can punch in the body, all that stuff, but we don't punch in the head, we don't grab. It doesn't mean we don't do them, or it doesn't mean we shouldn't practice them. Okay, so Solsai says that we must remember that the Tensho is connected with the reverse hand techniques, or the grappling. So there's a lot of connection with the grappling in Tensho. Among the kata, the karate kata, none is more important than Tensho. The Tensho used only blocking is slow and unvaried, because it consists merely of 3 steps forward, 3 steps back, and seems uninteresting both to the performer and the spectator. Many today neglect it. This is a mistake, because the nature of karate is to be passive, take advantage of any circumstance that present themselves. In other words, the value of karate is being aware and preventing aggressive attacks. As the reader doubtless knows, this type of passivity is extremely difficult. So what he's getting at here, well, let me read on, because I know this sounds a little, cliche, but it's really important. In cases, and remember, Solsai, he was a phenom in the street. People need to remember that. He was, a black sheep amongst a different people. So he was faced with some pretty serious challenges. But anyway, he says, in cases in which the strength of two opponents is equally matched, the attacker will have the head start and the advantage. And the defender will be behind and at a disadvantage. Why? Because action is always faster than reaction. On the other hand, if the defender has a strength advantage of, say, 60 to 40 or 70 to 30, he will definitely not be in a disadvantaged position, even assuming the passive role. The Tensho is a method of attaining this strength advantage of 70 to 30 or 60 to 40 when still maintaining passivity. In other words, not being preemptive in your strike. A man who has practiced the Tensho a number of thousands of times and has a firm grasp on its theory can not only take any attack, but can also turn the advantage in any attack and will always be able to defend himself perfectly. So that's a really interesting summary of Tensho in Saul Tsai's fantastic book. This is Karate. I cover every book I've ever owned. That's a lie. I used to cover every book I ever owned. But this was a gift to me from Frank. I'm just going to look what date it is. This is 1965. See there, 1965. And you can see the name of the translator, Richard Gage. He was a gentleman who was faced with the challenge of trying to come to terms with all these difficult terms that he had no precedent for. But anyway, so I want to look at Tensho. I want to look at a couple of different ways that it has been done in Kyokushin over the years, and perhaps play with a little bit of bunkai as far as we can with one person. Obviously, it's much clearer and easier with two people. I phoned our good buddy Josh, but unfortunately he's down and out. He's a bit crook at the moment with a cold. The judo chop. Man, oh man, I can remember in primary school, back in 66, 67, we'd all walk around doing the judo chop on each other. Grace uses all those strikes. It begins standing. Present you to the competition. There you go. So realistically, if you want to get a full grasp, like Saul Tsai says, if you want to call yourself a martial artist, you can't be ignorant of the fundamentals of any art. Okay, so just because you're a judo player doesn't mean you don't know how to punch and kick. Just because you're a karate guy doesn't mean you should ignore the grappling. This is the big error that I think has manifested for a long time. And when it manifests over a long time, then it becomes people with a senior position have a vested interest in protecting that. Why? Because they have no knowledge of that. They're really good at range 1 and 2, kicks and punches. But when it comes to knowing how to really clearly reverse grips, control grips, do arm drags and takedowns and so on, they have no idea. I'm just ignoring that remark, Mike, being a vegetarian myself. Oh, good on you. That's amazing. You got a Saul Tsai's autographed copy. That's very cool. Sudiptar Kamarkar, Namaste, all the way from West Bengal, my favorite state in India. Well, it's the main one I've been to, but that's where Kolkata is. Very interesting area. But anyway, it's really important to recognize that just because we don't practice particular techniques regularly in our training, it doesn't mean we should ignore them. On the contrary, that should be an indicator to us that we need to work that area. Why? Because it's our weakness. Remember what we call the Cohen Key. In the dojo, we call it the Cohen Key. We take that from Leonard Cohen. In that song, he says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And that's what we do. We try to find our cracks in our training. And it's through those cracks that we reveal our weaknesses. We work those weaknesses and make them strengths. And over time, we reduce the number of cracks. And you see certain people in certain fighting systems who have pretty well tightened up all the cracks in their game. And when that happens, they're basically impossible to defeat. Okay, so I'll look at Tensho. I want to talk through it as well. and I want to show different variations of it, because when it was taught at Hombu and when I first went over in 76, it became very different over time. Not because people misrepresented it, but just because things change over time. So it's good to know different variations. Give me a sec to get my legs woken up again. Oh, forgive me too, at the back here, there's a lot of stuff going on. We've had really heavy rains and the garage got flooded through. So lots of stuff got damaged. I've got piles of geese here. Their bags were, luckily the geese were basically survived. But anyway, the heavy rains came running through the garage there. You can see, if you can, you'll see in the background. And hopefully I saved my antique furniture. Okie doke. Tensho. Wait. Okay. So when I do it different variations, sometimes probably out of habit. But let's look at a couple of things here. First thing, we break out. Now in the early days, Solsai didn't withdraw the hand and then start. What he would do is he would start and withdraw the hand at the same time. Okay. Everything Solsai did came, this is that story that I've told before when I was when Solsai was being interviewed by Madison Square Gardens, and they asked him a question about the philosophy of the martial arts, and he gave a really amazing explanation, and I'd heard everything because I translated for him so many times, and so it almost got to the point where I knew what he was going to say, so the translation actually became Mr. Sam Karaliyade. Singala katakaranda puranda. Do you speak Sinhalese? But anyway, and he answered with the most profound answer, and he could see in my face that I was actually quite moved. It was very, very powerful. Really, I mean, seriously powerful answer. And he said to me, "Where do you think that comes from?" And I said, Confucianism or Taoism, or a mix of Confucianism and Taoism. And he looked at me and just went, Oyama-ism. It was so cool. And he said that everything he ever did, he never ever taught anything unless he tried it out himself and experimented, because that was the only way that he could tell unequivocally whether it was right or wrong, or effective or ineffective. So obviously everything he did was affected by his experience. And just because it was done in a certain way traditionally, it didn't mean that he would 100% do it that way, because his experiences may very well have been different. Okay, so we'll look at it here, and don't judge my technique. Not that I don't care, I do care, but I'm not going to infatuate over it. I just want to get the technique in the body right, and that's most important. So we break out, withdraw, turning palms. We come in and hook down. We come around and hook down. So there's the turning palm. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hook, hook, turn, palm heel. Block up. Now this is the first variation. Block up, down, there's another block across there, and pull back. In Solsai's day, or when he was younger, back in the 60s and 70s, this would come here and go here. So it's almost like he'd block up and hit knife hand on the neck. Up, knife hand, up, knife hand. Can you hear my hand whistling past my ear? I can. Okay, so instead of going block here, block there, and then palm heel, he'd go block here, hit there, and then withdraw, and then palm heel. So he would do it high. Over the years, he changed. Okay, this is the thing you got to remember about Solsai is he didn't just teach it one way. So when you're trying to settle upon which technique to teach, Oishi Hanshi, we talked about this, we settle on the most common and the most recent way that he taught, but we're not ignorant of what he taught in the early days as well. So 1, 2, 3. Solsai's early way, block, hit, withdraw. The current way, block over, block down, withdraw. Hand comes up. This is the second variation. Where is the thumb? That has never changed. It's always been on the tip of the ring finger, and you can see when people do this technique, sometimes they have the thin fingers here and so on. And I swear, they talk about gokui, the secret techniques, and I swear sometimes Solsai would do it like this just to throw people off. Because I know since probably well before my time, at least 10 years before my time, Solsai was teaching the thumb on the ring finger when the block comes up. Rochelle asked me at one stage, why the ring finger? And I thought about it. I never had an opportunity to ask Solsai, but I tend to feel that the main reason was that's not so much a strike as a block. And so by putting the thumb at the tip of the ring finger, it's the more you try to keep your hand straight, the more your finger will move over to the middle finger. So if you try to bring it up straight, of course, it'll be on the middle finger. And if you want to bring it up softly, without deep concentration, then the thumb will end up at the tip of the forefinger, not even the root of the forefinger, the tip of it. Okay? So by putting it at the root or the beginning of the ring finger, you can see the angle of it changes slightly, and that becomes very effective as a block. There's your margin of error as opposed to coming up. There's your margin of error. So it makes a lot of sense. So the hand comes up. Now, the way we currently teach it is a turn, because if they have the wrist, if they hold your wrist, you can get a good wrist lock there. And learning that wrist turn is very, very valuable. But don't forget, you also have the block up and the palm out. And even in This Is Karate, at that point, it wasn't the turn, it was up and out. And you could imagine that in a real situation here where you're defending against stuff. Don't look to karate demos for what works. Look, I always thought a really good demo would be to get someone come out and say, just try to bash the crap out of me. Because what they normally do is say, okay, let's rehearse this. You hit with a left and a right, and I'll do this. And it makes it look so rehearsed. The reality is, if you say to them, hit me some way, somehow, you have to have a fundamental solution. And the best solution possible is this double, we call the Kanku block, the double hand coming up like this, which also is in Tensho. But this hand coming up now, there, you see that? That movement, you can imagine you're in this position, bang, you block up and you palm heel straight away. 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. It's very powerful. Block up and straight down. Well, that's how Solsai does it in This Is Karate. It comes up and straight down. Up, straight down. Down and out. Now, when you go out, the finger is on the tip of the middle finger. this is really important to get this distinction right, especially if you're teaching. Tip of the ring finger, when it rises up here, tip of the middle finger when it's a lateral block. And that makes a lot of sense too, because doing it on the ring finger affects the movement, whereas putting it on the middle finger is a lot more effective to just knock that away. So you hear now, they throw the punch, they go to grab, boom, that knock away there and straight back with a palm heel. There's a really good demo. I think it was at the 6th World Tournament, Shihan Bobby Lowe demonstrating the Tensho Kata. I tried to find the link before today, and whether it's been taken down or whether it's just become a bit obscure on Facebook, but there's some really good bunkai in that as well. And one of the techniques he does, in fact, he nearly knocks out his partner, Ralph. He bang, bang, crack. And Ralph said later he was actually out cold for a split second when Bobby Lowe hit him with it. But then you also have, they go to grab, you knock that away, boom. So there's your first block, there's your second block. There's your first block, then it's all size way. Instead of going block here and around there and back, it's also go here and then there and back. Okay, so the hand coming up, ring finger, turn out to the side, it goes to the middle finger. And when you practice that, you'll feel how effective that is. One, and then straight back in there. Okay, and of course the in the old days, I used to go here, 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 over, bang, up, bang, and then here, and bang. So we'd cross over that center line. But later on, it was changed and brought back to just this middle line. You go left hand now, same thing. 1, 2, turning palms, block 1, block 2, palm heel out, up, block, withdraw, palm heel, turn, ring finger, tip of the ring finger, up, push out, down, out, in. 2 hands now. Now here too, in the old days, you used to cross even bigger. I still cross a little bit now, but if you watch Solsai, there was no crossing at all. You come to here, 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 straight down. So I'm a little bit of a mix. I'm back to not really crossing at all here. Come up, double, down, ring finger double, straight down and out. Grab, once again, same as Sanshin. 3 grabs, Mawashi Yuke around, Mawashi Yuke around. Now let's look at some of the bunkai. That movement there is very practical, and for one of the best ways to practice the muchimi, of course, is to get with a partner and you just relax and feel. You're not even, I find that when you try to put strikes in, all of a sudden your technique changes. At least there's nothing wrong with putting strikes in later on. But when you want to practice, the way I practice that grappling hand and the muchimi style thing is you don't even try to hit, you simply just try to break their balance. So the hands are touching, and when they overbake it, it's very easy to redirect that. You just play with that like your hands hardly even touching. The more force they put in, the easier it is to take advantage of that. So that's the beauty of that stuff. 1, 2, hands coming up. 1, 2, 1, 2 there. Double hand now. You're doing a double hand. 1, 2. See that? You don't know what's coming. I don't know what's coming. Some guy's going to hit me. What do? Do I step back and block the right? But what if he doesn't throw the right? What if he throws the left? What if? Okay, so the best way to deal with that is think in terms of the hands staying together. I teach this at the dojo. If you're in a self-defense situation, you protect the neck, the front side neck with your shoulder, and you just think in terms of your hands always staying together for starters until you see an opportunity to hit. Well, it's the same with Tensho. So here, look, there's the double hands coming up. Boom, coming up here. There, look, double block there. You don't know what's coming, but that double block with the hands staying together will do anything. The initial explosion is what you need to deal with. Once, if you have enough experience, once you've made contact, Then the rest is just proprioception and experience. The hands come up. You don't know whether, when you go like that, are you on the outside of his arm or are you on the inside of his arm? And you can change accordingly, but that's that initial explosion that you have to deal with. 1, 2, 3, up, look, bang. That movement is very important. Hands together. 1, 2, 3, up, 2, down, out. That's very practical too. I couldn't tell you how many times I've used that when I'm grappling or when I'm starting a stand-up where you're allowed to grab. And guys will grab and they'll grab you and boom, you knock that away. Bang. Especially if they grab the lapel here. Bang, knock it away there with the coquette. Okay, and if they try to go for a double grip, bang, there's a double grip there. You can hit in there, or then you go on to something else, of course. You know, we minimize these double punches. We always talk about moroteski and this sort of thing, but actually they can be really, really effective, and especially with a push-pull principle. Bang, the hands here behind the legs, the head smack in the middle of the chest. That sort of movement where you're pulling the legs, pushing the head. Well, the double strike too is very surprising. It catches people off guard because 99.9% of the training done in the world is training against a single blow, not against a double blow or against a double blow. So here too, you take the arms, look, bang. And this movement, I've shown that before, the breakout here, the practical application of the breakout is really practical when you want to bridge the gap against someone who tries to grab. You knock the hands away, boom, 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 and you can finish it right there simply by doing that breakaway. So for the double hands, 1, 2, 3. Block up, 2 hands. Go around, 3. Up again. Down. There's your double breakaway. Okay, there. I tend to think that a lot of the times when you have bilateral motion, of course, it's the aesthetics of the kata as well. You've done it right hand, you've done it left hand, now you're doing it both hands around like that, okay? But there is practicality in a lot of the two-hand movements here, particularly when the hands rise up and separate or rise up here. Even the one-hand tensho, see that? 1, 2. You're much better off doing it 1, 2. Not one hand down, 2, but one hand behind the other 2, because that allows, if the punch comes, there's the punch coming at you. That hand picks it up, this hand redirects it, and there you have your 2-on-1. There you have your arm drags. There you have the elbow dislocations. There you have the palm strike over the top, and then that allows you to continue on. So get both hands involved. One of the signs, I think, of a good someone who's had a lot of experience is they use more and more parts of their body at the same time. So rather than just go with one hand, someone who's good is they're moving that boom, boom, and they're using their whole body as one single weapon. That's very important. Okay, so once again, we're just looking at doubles here. Turn palms over, separate the grip, they grab. It's also very prevalent in Seienshin. One of the applications for Seienshin is to break that double grip, so that's why the thumbs are out as opposed to thumbs in. We're always taught to keep the thumbs in, except in Seienshin. Well, that's because you wrap your hands around their wrists, break the grip away, and look, knock the arm out of the way, grab, and strike. Well, that's a Tensho movement. Look at that, boom, bang. There's Seienshin, and there's Tensho. It's exactly the same, except opposite. Okay, so they connect as well. 2 hands, look, I separate their grip. Palm heel straight back. They strike, you don't know where they're striking, left, right, boom. My hand's coming up, cover it. Straight around, and you can palm heel there. I tend not to, I've never done that, to be quite honest, so I don't want to talk to it too much, I haven't done 1, 2, but this I've used 1,000,000 times. I've told myself 5 million times not to exaggerate. The double block is the saving grace. That should be the beginning of all your self-defense moves. Whether it's a grab, a kick, a punch, whatever. Boom, double away. Boom. Even Even a kick, if it's a front kick, you don't know what's coming. You're there, your hands come up, and then you're able to pick it up. Hands up, and then pick up that kick. So the two hands connecting, like I said, the Sosai, even though in Kyokushin, we do Kanku like this. Sosai said there's a hidden technique in that. In that the reality is the Kanku comes up like this. And that's probably one of the most powerful self-defense moves that you can drill into your system. Hands connected, coming up. Hands connected, coming up. And this is why Tensho Kata, this sort of thing. Here, see this? There's your Tensho block, Tensho block. Look, Tensho block, Tensho block. But the block becomes a hit. A block is a lock, is a blow, is a throw. Two, palm heel, down, straight down, up, finger on, thumb on the root of the ring finger. Up, turn to break the wrist, grip, or up and strike, boom, strike. And that can be there too, boom, this sort of movement and straight back down again with the palm heel is very effective too. There, turn straight down again to separate the grip and strike again. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Circle round, boom, and there. Let me do it once more. That movement, that Tensho movement is so valuable because you'll pick it up everywhere, and it's that sensitivity of, Okinawa, as Sensei Mike pointed out last week, muchimi, that sticking hands. But don't overdo it, don't overthink the muchimi. The muchimi is just a drill to develop sensitivity. But in my experience, nothing develops sensitivity more than someone genuinely trying to take you down and grapple, because when you stand toe-to-toe in Sanshin and you're doing these muchimi drills, what makes them work really well is the experience of actually working with someone whilst they actually try to take you down, and the way you replace their hands and so on. Well, good, Paul. I'm just going back. I missed a lot of comments, I know. Paul says, as the body tends to relax in Tensho, well, there's time for relaxation and time for tension, put it that way. Whereas in Sanshin is the yang, okay, so it's generally speaking, you got to firm the body everywhere. Is tense. With Tensho, it's much more relaxed because you need that elasticity and movement in the spine. But when you do the palm heel, see, it's done quite slowly, so there's a degree of tension in that too. 1, 2, there. You might have noticed too that when I do this part here, go down and to the side, often my hand will come up. That's just probably a bad habit in terms of the aesthetics of the kata, but for me it's a good habit because that's, I find, when I've used this technique, knocking grips away, someone grips me or grabs my sleeve, and I'm not talking about knockdown, drag out, brawls in the street. I mean, just in training, even when we allow grips, when we fight in the dojo, and I'll use that knock away, and I'll use the koken to knock away, and the hand coming up there allows me better connection through the body. You've got those 3 key connections, the lower tanden, and Salso is always on about relaxing the shoulder and closing the waki, and then the connection to the hand. So those 3 points connect. So I find if I go low, I get a bit of a disconnection with the elbow. If I go high, to me it seems to flow a little bit better. So Paul, some tension, some relaxation, but Tensho I call the yin kata of Kyokushin. Sanshin is the hard yang. Tensho is the soft yin. Okay, so it's much softer. I work this kind of idea from Tensho: catching and pulling with rope or elastic stretching bands. You soon know if your posture is poor, the rope is attached to a heavy bag, so I can counter into something. Very interesting, very good. Double hand defense is like having a crosshair and shield at some time at the same time with one motion. Yeah, I think you're right, actually, and I'm not 100% sure what you mean by crosshair, but the hands coming here like this. I think one of the things that gets minimized in karate is these double blocks. Well, of course, if you think what you're doing is you're using it to block a punch like that, that's a bit silly. But the hands connecting like that actually is really, really practical. There, bang, you hit those nice palm heels and the floating ribs. Using sabaki, the two hands work very well. Yeah, indeed. The two hands, there's a lot of this movement here. When you're moving someone to the side, see that movement? Boom. They grab you, you want to break them. You don't stand there and do it here. You're moving them to the side. And then Shihan Bobby Lowe, who actually I have to share something really interesting with you. Once Bobby Lowe Shihan said to me that he never missed a day of Tensho from the day he learned it till the day he died. And not that I disbelieved him, but I know how difficult that can be. And he said, even on days when he was bedridden and sick, he would mentally practice Tensho. He would lie in bed and visually practice Tensho. And when he taught me that, I started to follow the same thing. And it was amazing how often I was able to do that. So it's a really good way to practice kata when you're in a position where you can't practice kata. Namely for me, because I'm in the airline industry, the number of hours I've spent sitting in airports, waiting. There's nothing you can do. I just close my eyes and go through the kata, and you'll be amazed. Salso talks about it in one of his books, where he got one guy to practice drills and fighting and conditioning, and the other guy to do a lot of internal visualization and meditation, and they fought off at the end of 12 months, and there was hardly any difference. So that mental rehearsal and visualization, of course, this whole industry is built around that, but it really is very, very practical. And so Shihan Bobby Lowe, when he said that he never missed doing Tensho a day in his life, and he said, when I'm sick, that drill was also done. He'd be lying in bed, he couldn't get out of bed, he'd close his eyes and practice it mentally. So keep that in mind. Just because you can't practice something physically doesn't mean you can't practice it mentally. Junior is a video showing Tensho. I was pleasantly surprised to see a picture of my Koguro senseis. Oh yes, Akamine sensei. That's a beautiful photo. Yeah, and next to it is the lady who gave me that photo. Her name slipped my mind. Baxter, I think her name is. She came and taught at the dojo, did a seminar for us at the dojo itself. And I'm just going to see if I can find that whilst we talk. No, I don't think I can, and I don't want to go screwing around whilst I'm doing the live stream. But yes, yeah, that photo's been on my dojo wall for the last 4 or 5 dojos. That's very interesting. That's so cool that you have that connection. That's fantastic. So Harry's asking, why do I extend so far out? Well, I extend the hand out, but I don't extend the elbow too far. The elbow probably stays about a fist away. But you've got to extend the hand out a degree because the arm that you're blocking needs to be removed from the line, from the trajectory of your counter strike. So when it comes down and out, you're actually knocking it, getting it past. Plus, if it's a grip, you need to be able to move that grip and manipulate. Catherine, that's it. Yes. She came in. Do you know her, Mike? She came and did a wonderful seminar for us at the dojo back in, I think, the 80s or 90s. Yeah, the elbows, that's one of the key points that's also used to talk about, the connection between the hara or the tanden and the waki or the armpit. In other words, relax your shoulder, keep the elbows heavy. And even though the hand goes a little bit wide, you've got to take the hand wide. I'm going to go down here. You've got to take the hand wide to open up the line to the target. So I need to knock their hand out of the way. And from my experience, the elbow will tend to come up sometimes, but it's with the momentum of the movement, because the connection between the hara and the elbow is still there, even though the arm comes a little bit wider than normal. Yeah, Brad, he was pretty exceptional. Yeah, good call, Mac. It's about the same spread as Uraken Hizouchi, because Hizouchi is not a long-range technique. The fist, the elbow stays about one fist off the body, so it's actually a close-range technique there like that. Okay, so it's the same. I'm going, whang. Good call, Mac. I never connected it like that. Catherine, yeah, Kathy Baxter. That's correct, I think. Catherine, yeah, we called it Kathy. And I think I've got Kathy written on the photo. Great story about Steve Backley, the javelin thrower, did the visualization training when badly injured. When back in training, his form had hardly altered. His nervous system was trained too. Yeah, good call. There's some amazing stories like that. Yeah. We do, Mac, that's interesting you point that out. I would never have thought that was something different. But in the dojo, the students are always taught heavy elbows, because you can have your hands in the right position, and if your elbows are light, everything's screwed. You've got too much tension in the shoulders, your waki's open, but we constantly have heavy elbows. And when you're holding people too, heavy elbows versus light elbows makes a world of difference. But anyway, guys, that's my take on Tensho. It's a beautiful kata, and on a good day with limited time and space, my workout consists of nothing more than 5 Tensho and 5 Sanshin done back to back, and that in itself is a really good way to loosen the spine and reinvigorate some health and youthfulness in the body. If you've got any more comments, please put them there too. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. My gratitude to the Patreon family, Brad Hansen. You see Brad's name? He's just joined the family too. We've got a new tier, and Brad's joined. So Brad's the vegetarian. He's quite comfortable eating any vegetables with his steak. That's his take on vegetarianism. But anyway, thank you, everybody. And we've hit over 1,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel. So that's great. I'm going to go and celebrate tonight. After training, I'll have a mugicha, a nice mugicha. Anyone who's trained in Japan knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so good on you, Mac. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Just a little bit of an insight into Tensho Kata for you. Good. Us, Chris. Good to see you. Thank you, everybody. Brad. Love you too, Brad. Daniel. Us. Thank you, Bill, Marco, and I look forward to seeing you next week with a pile of books next to me. The book's coming. How exciting. Thank you very, very much. Us. See y'all.